Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 19th of May, now it's 12:30, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan The Duran and this is my first update today, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me take a few minutes and first of all thank all of you for your incredible support and for your attention. It's because of you and your support I was invited on Duran channel, and I did participate in yesterday's program on Duran. It was an incredible experience and honor to me, of course. But first of all, I want to thank you for your support. Also, I want to welcome and thank new members of our community, because after yesterday's appearance on the Duran, our community did grow quite significantly, and we have now almost 2,000 new members, which is unbelievable. And I welcome all new members, and I hope they will find this channel interesting. On my part, I will do best I can to create informative content, to provide information from this side of this invisible iron curtain that Western elites are building now between Russia and West. And by the way, of course, I will share with you experience of yesterday's appearance on the Duran. But firstly, let me say sorry that I was unable to make update yesterday afternoon, as I promised. I ended up having some issues with sound, unfortunately, and I did deal with it yesterday afternoon. Last few hours, I'm trying to use different programs to somehow increase sound, or to deal with this issue, and hopefully now sound is more or less okay. And for tomorrow, I will try to improve it significantly. I did bought some new microphone, and I will try to deal with this issue. That's what I want to say. So sorry about yesterday's update, and sorry about sound, which is, I guess, not really good at this moment. And of course, yesterday's appearance on the Duran, it was, as I said, it was a great honor to me and incredible experience. I'm very thankful to Alex Cristoforo and Alexander Mercouris for inviting me. I'm very grateful to moderators of Duran, and to entire team that are preparing programs on this great channel. And of course, I'm very grateful to community of Duran. They were very kind, and there was many comments on the program yesterday, with some good wishes and with some kind words. So thank to Duran's community also. Hopefully sometime in the future I may be invited again, and I hope for that time my English will be a little bit better, so I will be less nervous and more informative. But when it comes to yesterday's stream, I was extremely nervous, and I was constantly thinking to myself not to start constructing some heavy sentences, because I got lost during that process, because my English, after all, is not as good as I like it to be. And yes, even though I was nervous, I was trying to talk with short, simple sentences to make sure that I'm able to share my opinion in more or less understandable English. And hopefully I did manage to deal with this stuff. Of course, I'm quite, I'm always self-critical, and I know I could do better. But after all, I mean, I was extremely nervous. It was first time that I was presented in other channel, and it was live stream, and hopefully you did find yesterday's program interesting. So thank to everyone that was involved in this entire story. Thank you all. That's been said, let's talk about news now. And it was an incredible experience. I was so nervous that after stream did end, for quite a few hours after that, I was still, trying to cope with nerves. That's how nervous I was. So, even though I am journalist since since I was 17 years old, I'm writer journalist. I'm not TV journalist, and I'm not used to participate in some live streams and stuff like that. So I hope it was okay. So let's talk about news now, and this is Kommersant newspaper reporting that according to Pushilin, head of DPR, Donetsk People's Republic, armed forces of Ukraine are still trying to conduct some local scale offensive operations in flanks, in direction of Bakhmut on the flanks, but as we already know, for quite a few days now, front line basically more or less are stabilized, and these attempts of Ukrainian armed forces to gain some more territory usually are repelled, and even if they are gaining some, even if they are establishing some new positions, it's incredibly low importance compared to losses that they are having during these offensives. And yesterday in Duran's show, we did touch this topic, how different is tactic of Ukrainian armed forces and Russian armed forces, because Russian side is not hesitating to withdraw forces in certain directions if Russian forces are not in good position there, because territories always can be regained, but lives are most important, lives of soldiers. But Ukrainian side has very different attitude. They are pouring in more and more soldiers, even though they are gaining nothing by this in strategic terms. So, for example, during this battle for Bakhmut, there are some reports that just in couple of days, just in the last couple of days, during this local scale offensive operation, Zelensky's regime did lost about 2,000 soldiers. Is it worth it to lose 2,000 soldiers to gain just irrelevant success on the front line? I don't think so. But yet again, Ukraine's leadership has a different attitude, it looks like, towards lives of Ukrainian citizens and Ukrainian soldiers. When it comes to Bakhmut itself, and by the way, of course, we should admit that during this previous more or less successful local scale counteroffensive, Zelensky's regime in Bakhmut direction, Zelensky's regime did manage to establish control over these country roads that were connecting Bakhmut with Chasov Yar, and they can withdraw forces from Bakhmut, and they are withdrawing forces from Bakhmut. They are retreating, and maybe this was main goal, and probably this was main goal of these local scale offensive operations that we see in previous days, because for now, when it comes to Bakhmut itself, this map does shows us quite clearly that contact line between the sides now basically are indicating that more than 99% of Bakhmut, is under Russian control at this moment, and I guess it's only a matter of who will announce. At this stage, it's only a matter of political decision to announce that this battle for Bakhmut has been ended successfully for Russian side. I don't know, it will be Prigozhin who will make this announcement, it will be Pushilin, head of DPR. Donetsk is a part, Bakhmut is a part of Donetsk People's Republic, or it will be Defense Minister of Russian Federation, or even Russian President. But whenever decision will be made about this, we will probably hear announcement that Bakhmut operation has finished successfully, and this city is under full Russian control now. Maybe we will hear this today, maybe tomorrow, but battle for Bakhmut effectively is over. And now Ukrainian side will try to hold on, at least for some time, to this village Krasnaya here between Bakhmut and Chasov Yar. And of course they will try to reinforce their positions in Chasov Yar and Konstantinovka. But anyway, this will be a huge blow for morale, of course, of Ukrainian armed forces, because soldiers will realize, I guess, maybe not all of them, but many of soldiers will realize that Zelensky's regime was sacrificing thousands and thousands and thousands of lives for nothing, really, just to gain some time for himself and for his Western masters in Washington and London, who don't want to hear any bad news from Ukraine and who are desperate for a good news. So yes, battle for Bakhmut is effectively over. In the incoming, maybe in few hours time, or maybe tomorrow, we will probably hear official announcement about it from Russian side. Let me continue now, and this is RIA Novosti's report. Let me share with you first this information. Also, RIA Novosti's news agency is reporting that this morning Russian air defense systems did manage to shut down four Ukrainian drones in northern part of Crimea. Hopefully Russian air defense systems do work reliably and quite effectively, even though they cannot shut down all the aerial targets because it's just impossible. It's only Zelensky's regime that are shutting down all the aerial targets constantly, always. But in reality, this kind of stuff is not happening never, anywhere. But when it comes to Russian air defense systems, it's good that they are capable to shut down vast majority of aerial targets, and this time they were quite effective also, and they did destroy all the drones that was launched by Zelensky's regime in direction of Crimea. This is also RIA Novosti's report, according to which during the previous night, and I did share this information on my Telegram channel also. And by the way, for new members of our community, if I may, I will say that I also have a Telegram channel, and I have a channel on Rumble as a reserve lines of communication. On Rumble, I do upload the very same videos that I do upload on YouTube, but when it comes to Telegram, I do share many news during the day here, and hopefully you will find it interesting. You will see links in the description box under this video. And yes, during the previous night strikes, Russian side did manage to hit targets in the Lvov region, in direction of Lvov, in direction of Kiev region, Chernigov region, Dnipropetrovsk, and the Khmelnytsky regions. During the day, we will probably learn from Russian Defense Ministry what kind of targets were hit, but my guess is that it was ammunition depots and some industrial areas where Zelensky's regime is trying to hide Western military equipment that they are receiving constantly. Let me continue. This is TASS News Agency's report, which is based on statement of Vladimir Rogov, official of Zaporozhya region. And according to Rogov, Zelensky's regime did shell Energodar city this morning. And let me show you on the map this area. So this is Energodar, by the way, on the bank of this Kakhovka water reservoir, and Zaporozhya nuclear power plant also based in this area, in vicinity of Energodar city, basically. And new members maybe don't know my opinion about anticipated by many counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime in direction of Azov Sea to cut this land bridge between Crimea and Russia. And I will repeat, if I may, that in my understanding, Zelensky's regime is unable to conduct large-scale counteroffensive operation because they don't have enough manpower, they don't have enough ammunition and military equipment, especially now when during the previous days Russian side very effectively destroyed warehouses with Western military equipment and ammunition, and Russian side does constantly conducting strikes on a concentration of forces of Zelensky's regime and on ammunition depots and military warehouses, and that's why there will be no large-scale counteroffensive. But because Zelensky's regime under heavy pressure from the West, especially from Washington and London, to conduct offensive operations, because they need some good news in Washington. They are desperate to receive any good news from Ukrainian battlefield because they invest extremely heavily in this entire story, in this conflict, and they are now afraid, as I understand, that they will end up under heavy criticism of not just citizens of US, but also on the world stage. Because despite these constant attempts to escalate with Russia, it seems like it's a Russian side that achieving some success on the front line, not Zelensky's regime. But when it comes to offensive operations, because of this high level of pressure on Zelensky and his henchmen, I'm quite sure with the reserves that they have left, which is about 50 to 70,000, maybe 80,000 at max, that are concentrated in Zaporozhya and Kherson regions, Zelensky's regime will definitely try to conduct some local scale offensive operations. And my guess is that, or my prediction is that they will try to establish control, or at least to conduct some offensive operations in direction of Novaya Kakhovka, to establish control over this dam here on the Dnipro river, because for this moment, this dam is the only way to move heavy equipment from right bank of the Dnipro river. On the left bank, of course, Zelensky's regime will try to conduct some marine operations in delta of the Dnipro river, also in Kherson region. And I'm quite sure that we will also see some amphibious or marine operations in direction of Energodar, in direction of this left bank of this reservoir, Kakhovka reservoir. We all know that Zaporozhya nuclear power plant is extremely important for USA, for US government. There are different accounts why US is so keen to gain control again over this power plant. There are different reports. According to some, there are vast quantities of enriched uranium and even plutonium on Zaporozhya nuclear power plant. And this information comes from no other than head of IAEA, International Atomic Energy. I was surprised to learn about it, especially when it comes to plutonium, because plutonium is a main component of nuclear weapons. But yes, I mean, if Grossi was not mistaken, I did see videos where he's saying that it's thousands of kilograms of enriched uranium and even plutonium in Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, and maybe that's why US wants to establish control over this area. Who knows? But if this is true, then for Russian side, it's extremely important then to keep under its control Zaporozhye nuclear power plant to make sure that Zelensky's regime will not receive some additional resources to create dirty bomb. But anyway, we will definitely see attempt from Zelensky's regime to establish control over the Energodar and Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. I guess Russian side is ready for such a kind of development. And of course, we will probably see some local scale offensive operations of Ukrainian armed forces from Orekhovo direction. They will probably try to move in to establish control over the Tokmak here. And we will probably see offensives from Gulyai-Polye, maybe even from Ugledar direction. Maybe. But anyway, if these offensives will even take place, if Zelensky's regime won't be able to withstand this pressure and they will start these suicidal, basically, operations to cut this land bridge, I think they will have some local scale success for the first hours, maybe day or two. But once Russian defense lines will stop Ukrainian forces and once Ukrainian brigades that are will participate in these operations will run out of steam, it will be Russian turn. And I predict that Russian side will hit and will hit hard, and all these brigades of Ukrainian armed forces will be decimated. And this way, Ukraine will lose the last more or less battle-ready reserves that they had. And then probably we will see beginning of the end of Zelensky's presidency, Zelensky's regime, and Ukrainian armed forces as more or less capable entity. I guess after that, Ukrainian forces will start collapsing in mass all the way on the front line. So that's to summarize about possible Ukraine's counteroffensive. And yes, let me, when it comes to current situation, it's the usual stuff. Kherson region is often artillery duels between the sides. Same goes for Zaporozhye region. Quite activity in Donetsk direction because it's always like that, especially in Marinka and in Avdiivka. Of course, Bakhmut is hot point. Seversk artillery duels, and same goes for Kupiansk. That's the main hot points or main directions right now on the front. So let me continue. And this is quite interesting information. Russian Defense Minister Shoigu did inspect headquarters, was in headquarters of Vostok grouping in Zaporozhye direction, and he was with the inspection in that area. And once again, and this is by the way Zaporozhye region, where everyone expects that this so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive will take place, main part of it. And as we can see, Russian side is well aware of plans of Zelensky's regime and are preparing. And that's why I guess Shoigu did visit this area to make sure that units are well prepared and they have everything they need to successfully repel any possible offensive operations of Zelensky's regime. This is also interesting. Kommersant newspaper is reporting that according to head of Secretary of National Security Council of Ukraine, Alexei Danilov, Zelensky will participate in G7 meeting, which will take place in Japan from today to the 21st of May. Not surprising, really, that Zelensky will be invited on that meeting. But what is interesting that Zelensky lately, especially since this drone strike on Kremlin that Zelensky's regime conducted, Zelensky is trying to avoid Ukraine. Probably you all notice it, that he's always on the move. In very day this drone strike happened, he was in Finland, then he went to Netherlands, then Italy, he was in Poland if I'm not mistaken, then Italy, Germany, France, UK, now he's in Japan. So for some reason it seems like he's afraid to stay in Ukraine. Even though, me personally, I don't think that Russian side will even try to take him out. Why? I mean, Zelensky is well enough destroying reputation of his own and his government all around the world, even in the West. He is extremely incompetent and failed politician, and I don't think Moscow has any need to deal with him. Why? My guess is that it will be Washington or London that will take him out, and they'll then blame on Russia. But Moscow, no. So he can return to Ukraine. The Russian side will not touch him. But maybe he is afraid that it's not Russians will do anything to him, but Ukrainians. Let's say head of military intelligence, Budanov, this mass murderer, or leadership of armed forces. Maybe Zelensky afraid of his own military at this stage. Who knows? But as a matter of fact, we can just, say what we see. Zelensky definitely avoiding to stay in Ukraine. And yes, when it comes to Zelensky, we have information about his statements here, according to which he did require summit to be held on about peace, but without Russia. And probably he will, talk about this in today's meeting. I don't know when he will make his speech, today or tomorrow, but he will be on the G7 summit, and he will probably say something like that there should be some summit about peace, and but without Russia, which is crazy. I mean, this individual truly losing touch with reality, because if you are not willing to talk to Russian side, then what is the purpose of holding any summit about peace, for God's sake? I mean, yes, they are losing it, man. They are just losing it. And Zelensky and his government, his henchmen, as I said, man, they are increasingly irritating, as I understand, even Western elites now, especially in Europe. So why should Moscow even think about taking him out? No, man, just let him do his thing, and one day maybe European leaders will come out and say to Zelensky to, just stay away from them. Who knows? This is TASS News Agency's report, according to which peaceful mission of African nations under leadership of South Africa will take place close to end of June, which is also great move from African nations. Just recently, leadership of South Africa was very active, and as I understand, president of South Africa had phone calls with Putin and Zelensky. And as I said, it's wonderful. It's great to see that these countries of Brics truly becoming one of the main players on the world stage. It goes for Brazil, it goes for South Africa, India, and China, of course, and Russia. And I think because of it, BRICS becomes even more and more relevant organization, and even more countries will try to become a part of BRICS, or at least associated member of BRICS, if it's possible. So yes, great move from African leaders. Unfortunately, as long as Washington and London are not willing to talk about peace, these attempts from African nations, from China, from Brazil, from other countries. Recently, as I understand, Saudi Arabia did even come out with some peaceful initiatives, United Arab Emirates. So there are many countries that are now very active to bring peace. But unfortunately, Washington and London are not willing to talk peace at this moment, and they will continue to escalate as long as before Russian side will achieve some decisive success on the front line. Once Russian side will achieve this decisive success on the front line, then I guess Washington and London will have a change of mind. They will be forced to acknowledge reality. For now, they are, in some bubble in which Ukraine is winning and they are defeating Russia. I mean, Western elites, but reality is very different. And once Russian side will achieve decisive success on the front line, and I guess this may happen even before end of summer, but if not, then for sure in the winter. So if this conflict will not end before in 2023, it will definitely end in 2024. But yet again, let's see how will situation develop. This is RIA Novosti's report, which is based on statements of Russian Defense Ministry, according to which Russian side recently did manage to deal huge blow to Zelensky's regime, to armed forces of Ukraine, by taking out a large number of ammunition depots and warehouses where Zelensky's regime is hiding its military equipment. This is true. This is absolutely true. And there are so many confirmations from independent sources that Russian strikes were very effective that at this point we have no reason to doubt this information from RIA Novosti. And this is also interesting. By the way, unfortunately, yesterday I was unable to make update, but I was thinking for yesterday's program to share this information. That very same time, quite a few NATO member states made statement almost simultaneously that they will not provide Ukraine with F-16 fighter jets. I find it interesting because day before we did see statements from France and UK that they are beginning, or they will start training Ukrainian pilots. And as I understand, there is some confusion among Western elites itself right now, because one day they are making one statements, and second day some other leaders of European states are making some other comments or other statements that are contradicting previous statements, and it's kind of chaotic situation now, really, more increasingly, because why UK did say that they will train Ukrainian pilots when and at the same time they did say that they cannot give to Ukraine Typhoons that they have on the inventory, Typhoon fighter jets, and of course they will not give to Ukraine F-35s It's just impossible. And what is the point then to say that we will train Ukrainian on what? Talks are about F-16s, but very same time UK don't have F-16s, first of all, and European states that do have, one by one come out and say that they will not provide Ukraine with F-16s. So very strange story. And we had a statement from Washington also. You are probably aware about it, that Washington officials say that they are not training and not planning to train Ukrainian pilots on F-16 also. So very strange situation when it comes to this Western-made fighter jets. You know my take on this issue. I did say many times that Western fighter jets will be introduced to the battlefield only when Poland will openly enter this conflict, and maybe some other countries also, NATO member states, also with some anti-Russian coalition, under the umbrella of anti-Russian coalition that Poland was actively building. And the question is, will Poland stay only in the western part of Ukraine and will try to establish no-fly zone over the western Ukraine, or Polish troops will move eastwards and end up in direct confrontation with the Russian forces? That's the only question, really. Before this happens, before Polish open involvement, there will be no Western fighter jets on the front line, because it's for everyone is too obvious that there is no time for Ukrainian pilots to get know these F-16s or Mirage planes or any other Western fighters that was mentioned by Western elites. And I don't think Western elites are willing to risk nuclear war with Russia by starting operating these planes from NATO member states towards Ukraine. Because, by the way, Ukraine don't even have airfields where these planes can be safely land and take off, or even store. So quite interesting stuff. But as I said, we will only see Western-made fighter jets on the front line when Poland and some other NATO member states will enter this conflict openly. Only then. And let me continue. This is RIA Novosti's report, according to which this is quite strange and funny news. First, of course, US and Ukraine denied that Patriot air defense systems was damaged or destroyed by Russian missile strike. Then, after some time, just recently, a few days ago, when this video footage did emerge on internet, when Russian missile did hit exactly in direction where Patriots were operating, then Kiev and Washington was forced, not directly but through media outlets, recognize that yes, there was some damage done to Patriot systems, and now they are coming up with statements, with information that damaged Patriot was already how you say it? Just a sec. So, repaired, yes. Damaged Patriot systems repaired in Ukraine, Pentagon claims. Well, can we believe that Pentagon did manage to, repair Patriot in 1 day or 2 days? Of course not. Nothing was repaired. The Pentagon will be forced to send some other Patriot air defense systems, or maybe they will just ignore this topic entirely, or maybe they will demand from Ukraine to stop using Patriots, because it's huge blow for military-industrial complex of US, because they want to sell these Patriots, and they are presenting Patriots as extremely effective anti-missile system that can shut down any missiles anytime, anywhere. When in reality, even though Patriots launch some 32 missiles to deal with Russian Kinzhal, they achieve nothing, and Kinzhal did hit this Patriot anyway. So there is facts, and there is some advertising statements of Pentagon and United and the military-industrial complex of Zelensky's regime, and they are very different. Facts are very different on the ground. So that's why they come up with these crazy stories that Zelensky's regime shut down some 6 Kinzhals, 10 Kinzhals, 15 Kinzhals. Like it's, I mean, like anybody gonna believe in this crap? But yes, they are in damage control mode right now, and I mean, I don't think they will be able to rebuild this myth about Patriot. And after all, to be honest, any air defense systems can be defeated. You know, I was never understood why was so much hype about these Kinzhal missiles, because it's just a missile after all. Yes, it's hypersonic, it's difficult to intercept, but it's just a missile. And I don't really understand all this hype around Patriot also, because after all, it's only air defense systems, and any air defense systems can be defeated. Mistake on behalf of US was that they presented this Patriot as some kind of know-how that cannot be destroyed or are 100% effective all the time, which is not true. And that's why they are now on damage control mode. Because if they said, you know, we have good system, which is true, Patriot is very good and very capable air defense systems. We have good system, but, you know, it cannot be effective 100%, like no other air defense systems can be. And then there will be no this shameful story for US military-industrial complex and Washington. And there will be no on defense now to deal with the reputational damage. But anyhow, let's continue. This is TASS News Agency's report, according to which US will increase its sanctions on Russia. And this time, some 300 Russian citizens will end up under sanctions, and 70 different organizations. Well, this information just clearly shows how desperate Biden's administration really is, because after some time they will probably come up, even though now these Western sanctions looks extremely crazy. After some time, these sanctions will become just laughable. Just laughable. You know, they are forcing themselves or on themselves that they have to come up with sanctions constantly. I mean, week after week, week after week, when there is no need for it. They already put sanctions on Russia so many times, and there are like 10,000 sanctions already. Why they are, you know, making from themselves clowns with these kind of decisions, man? I don't understand. And if they did not stop, eventually we will truly become, we will end up in a situation when Western elites will just destroy any relationships whatsoever between West and Russia, which will be, for elites, I mean, it means nothing, but it will be devastating when it comes to communication of ordinary people. That's what I'm worried about, really. Because I do remember that during the Cold War, there was very, very little communication between the sides. Very little communication, and then elites did manage to achieve to create from image of enemy from the West and vice versa. And people were probably truly afraid of each other or didn't like each other. So I don't want this kind of stuff to happen, and that's why I'm nervous that eventually these criminal Western elites will destroy all the relationships. They will build this iron curtain, and it will be extremely difficult to communicate to us, to ordinary people. Let's hope it will not happen, but you know, how long is this video? 45 minutes. Wow. Okay, just I will go through headlines, and this is it. So this is TASS News Agency's report about statement that former defense minister of Taiwan made, according to which for free US help with the military equipment, Taiwan will pay extremely dearly, because nothing is free, especially when it comes to US military weapons and military assistance. And he is absolutely correct. His former defense minister, Féng Shìkuān, and he probably knows in which direction Washington is pushing Taiwan. And if any confrontation will erupt between China and Taiwan, and by the way, I'm quite sure China will not start this conflict. China don't need to go military in this case. But I'm afraid Washington will force current Taiwanese government to act extremely provocative towards China, and maybe we will see some actions from Taiwanese government that will force China to react. And that's how probably we will see military conflict in that region. It will be very unfortunate, and former Taiwanese defense minister very well informed, I guess, and he's saying exactly the same, that Taiwan will pay dearly if war will erupt, and if Washington will manage to provoke conflict between Taiwan and mainland China. And three more news. So, by the way, today first plane take off from Moscow, from Vnukovo airport in direction of Tbilisi. As you know, recently Russian side did made quite incredible and good steps, friendly steps towards Georgia. So Russian side don't want any visas anymore, don't require any visas anymore from citizens of Georgia to visit Russia, and after 4 years, direct flights will also take place from Moscow to Tbilisi and vice versa, between Georgia and Russia, basically, which is a great move. And there are quite a few Russian avia companies that receive a license from Georgia to make these flights. One is Azimuth, second is Red Wing. So this is all good. Hopefully in coming years, Russia and Georgia will definitely increase their partnership. It's hard to say partnership. I mean, because of past, it's a quite difficult situation now between Georgia and Russia. But hopefully, current Georgian government will withstand Western pressure. They will continue this effective policy towards peace and peaceful negotiations when it comes to South Ossetia, Abkhazia, when it comes to Russia. And eventually, in coming years, we will see that many difficulties in relationship will be resolved. And yes, maybe a country will not become strategic partners, but at least will achieve good, friendly relationships, which can be extremely good for both countries, of course, and both societies. And by the way, this is last news for today's update. United Kingdom ban Russian diamonds. Well, This information once again shows that Western elites are now at a point when they don't really know what other sanctions should be imposed on Russia, and they are going like this crazy. They're gonna ban diamonds. No, okay, what next? Unfortunately, one day we will probably end up in a situation where trade between Russia and the EU member states or Western states will be banned entirely. And not just trade, but any relationships, cultural relationships, traveling, and the rest of it. Unfortunately, that's the direction that we are heading right now because of these crazy policies of Western elites. But it is what it is. Hopefully, we can only hope that Western society will somehow influence this situation and force Western elites to act adequately. Let's see how it will develop. This is it for now. Quite a long video. But yes, for future I will try to make videos like 30-35 minutes. This is it for now. I hope you will find this update informative and interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you think this channel is interesting, useful, and deserves to exist, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, where I also do some extra content time to time. So yes, this is it. You will see links under this video in the description box. Thank you very much for your attention and support. Welcome once again new members in our community. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and take care. See you soon.